right. All right, Shalom. Before I begin this entrance, I want to give all praises, honor, and glory unto Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahawashi, Bahashem, Rachakodash. Double honors to our elders and apostles, the GMS Great Millstone that rule well and taught us this truth. Salutations to the hopeful elect, Yahawashi's elect, preaching his word and his doctrine in full truth, honesty, and sincerity. All right, I'm the brother Chakam from the Great Millstone Miami camp, coming back once again to the Spirit to make this video on this lesson. And Lord willing, it be edifying to the brothers and few sisters that watch. All right, the title of this entrance is going to be, "The earth will be under new management soon." Okay, the earth will be under new management very soon. All right, and what do I mean by that for those who don't understand? All right, maybe there's new viewers that are tuning in. All right, people coming into this truth, Israelites coming into this truth. All right, so a new management means a new rulership. Okay, because the earth is being ruled, all right, by the wicked. All right, Job 9:24, it tells you that the earth is given into the hands of the wicked. Okay, now who's the wicked? When the scripture speaks about the wicked, all right, primarily, okay, speaking about Esau, Edom. Esau, Edom, who's that? The so-called white man. All right, because the Lord deals with nations. Okay, the Lord deals with nations. He doesn't deal with individuals. Okay, so the nation of Edom, all right, which is the Lord's chosen people's greatest enemy, which is Israel, the so-called blacks, Latinos, and Native Americans. The so-called white man, the gringo, or you would say, or the Caucasian European man, he's under rulership right now of the earth, because the earth has been given to him right now for rulership, to rule. Okay, and when you look at the state of the earth and how it is, it's in wickedness. Okay, the earth is plagued in wickedness. All right, when you read Revelation, the 6th chapter talks about the red horse and how the red horse is given power to take peace from the earth. Who was that red horse that it's talking about? It's talking about Esau, Edom, all right, the so-called white man that the Lord gave power, okay, to tread over the earth, okay, because Esau, Edom is the Lord's whipping stick. Okay, and when you look at why there's so many wars and why there's so many disease and plagues and violence and wickedness and sin, okay, and perverseness and profanity on the earth and sorcery and witchcraft, why is there so much unrest? Why do you feel like you cannot get rest no matter how many days you take off or how many vacations you take from work? Or why your brain can't shut off because you're constantly worrying about paying bills and constantly worrying about handling stuff that you need to handle, and why you feel down or you feel depressed is because the earth is given into the hands of the wicked. The so-called white man is in rulership of the earth right now. How do we know the so-called white man is in rulership right now? Okay, well, he's a key clue. All right, who has the power right now to print money? Okay, and what is the currency right now that is the dominant currency? The USD, the United States dollar. Okay, and who has the power to own these countries and have them in debt? The so-called white man, starting with Amalek. Okay, because you got something called the Federal Reserve and world banks. Okay, the Federal Reserve is a bank owned by the Rothschilds, which allow them to print infinite money and lend over money to the United States government with interest on top, hence why we are so in debt. But who are we in debt to? It's a question that these Americans don't ask. We are in debt to a private entity called the Federal Reserve. All right, and these are Edomites that own these banks. Okay, Rockefeller was an Edomite. Elon Musk is an Edomite. Donald J. Trump, the president of the United States, is an Edomite. The leaders of the World Economic Forum are Edomites. The leaders of the Bilderberg meetings are Edomites. Who owns everything? Who owns the media? Who owns your movies? Who owns your banks? Who owns your homes? Who owns the right, or who has the power to shut off your electricity? Who has the power to give you a passport? Who has the power to give you a loan? Who has the power to give you a driver's license? Esau, Edom, the so-called white man. We go to Esau, Edom, and these other nations for the want of all things. But Esau, Edom is the one who is in rulership right now. Okay, here's another one who had the power to have everybody from one day to another wearing face masks and had the world shut down for weeks, and had the power to be able to make everybody force themselves to take these jabs. Well, not everybody, all right? But who had the power to do that? So-called white man, Esau, Edom. And look what that did. How many millions of people have died from that juice? How many families were broken because of that juice? How many relatives were killed because of that juice? Because it's coming out now. All right, Mr. Fauci. All right, he's been a fraud all along. Okay? And he's up there in court pleading the fifth all day. Pleading the fifth all day. Okay? That's why Biden gave him the last second presidential pardon. Who are all the presidents of the United States? Esau, Edom. Okay? So Esau, Edom is in rulership right now. Okay, also when you read the Maccabees, all right, the book of Maccabees, it talks about how when King Alexander came into power, wickedness increased on earth. King Alexander the Freak, all right, the Greek, he was an Edomite. Okay, when Yahweh Shai, who the world Edom really calls Christ, was walking on this earth, who was in rulership at that time? Well, let's look at the kingdom that was thriving at that time. All right, the Roman Empire, which is ruled by who? Esau, Edom. Okay, but he lost that power, which is that great wound the scriptures talks about. And then the Holy Roman Empire came into power. Okay, and then Esau, Edom did not come into power once again until the Renaissance, which is around the 1500s. But the point of this lesson, all right, sticking to the title, so like if I'm drifting, okay, is how when you look at the state of the earth, everything is polluted. The earth is polluted. Women think they're men. Men think they're women. Children are going to the doctors and trying to get mutilated because they feel that there's 7 genders that exist. There's confusion on earth. There's sin running rampant. Okay? There's wickedness on the earth. There's witchcraft all over the earth. Spell casting. Okay, this is a spiritual warfare that we're dealing with, man. It is spiritual before it gets physical and carnal. All right, but that's why Esau, Edom is going to get taken out of power. Who's going to take Esau, Edom out of power? Yahweh Shai, who the Lord Edom really calls Christ. Okay, which is what these Christians don't talk about, man. All right, because when is that great reset coming? When is the new management coming? Well, the prophecies. We got to look at the prophecies. All right, we got to look at what needs to happen and what needs to prophetically come to pass before Yahweh Shai returns. Okay, we're already in the beginnings of Jacob's trouble, but it's going to intensify. All right, we need famine. We need famine of the word. We need the mark of the beast. All right, that chip to become mandatory. And then we need those nukes to start flying. And once those nukes start flying and start hitting America, all right, which is the final prophetic event before Yahweh Shai returns, the king will come back, and he comes back with many crowns, and he's going to overthrow all these other nations, the valley of Jehoshaphat, and he's coming back with deliverance. All right, and he's going to establish his, and once he's done, okay, putting butt to ass to these nations, okay, Yahweh Shai is going to establish his righteousness on this earth, man. And then the new management, and then the new management will come in. Okay, and then the righteous management will come to pass. All right. So that's how the new management is gonna come to pass. All right, through who everybody calls, ignorantly calls Christ, which is his name is Yahweh Shai. He's going to come and establishes the righteousness on this earth. Okay, in which the Israelites are going to be in power forever. Okay, because right now, who's in power? Esau, Edom. But who's going to be in power after the so-called white man? It's not going to be the Chinese. It's not going to be these damn Russians. It's not going to be these damn Iranians. And it's not definitely going to be no damn Arabs. All right? Okay? Y'all have lost your marbles if you think that after Esau, Edom, we're going to go into captivity again. Because we're currently in captivity. But who's going to come into power after Esau, Edom? Jacob, man. All right, starting with our ruler, starting with our king Yahweh Shai. Yahweh Shai is going to establish righteousness on this earth, where the Israelites are going to be in power forever. Because what does the scripture say? 2 Ezra 6 and 9. Esau is the end of the world, but Jacob is the beginning of it. That follow with Jacob, okay, Israel, the 12 tribes, these so-called blacks, Latinos, and Native Americans, okay, but only the elect are going to get delivered in these times, and through the elect, the rest of the nation will come into the kingdom of the Most High, which will be here on earth physically. The kingdom of earth will be here physically. Okay, and there's not going to be any sin. Okay, there's not going to be any wickedness. Okay, we're gonna be immortal. We're gonna be immortal beings. Okay, we're gonna be ruling hands. We're going to be ruling along with Yahweh Shai and the kingdom of heaven. Okay, there's going to be servants and slaves. Okay, but we're going to rule them in righteousness. That's how we were servants and slaves. These other nations got to be servants and slaves as well. All right, because the kingdom of heaven will have slaves in it. Okay, every other nation has slaves. So what's going to make the kingdom of heaven any different? And if anything, this is the kingdom that's going to have the most slaves, okay? Forever. All right? Well, they're going to build the kingdom for 1,000 years, and they're going to go back to the lands and, you know, do what they got and do what they want to do, but they're going to be governed by the Israelites still, okay? These are the nations going to be governed by Israel forever. But Esau, Edom, after he gets put down on this side, okay, on this rulership, he's going to go into hardcore slavery for 1,000 years, and then he's going to get eradicated off the face of the earth. No Edomites is going to exist after 1,000 years once the kingdom of heaven gets established. Okay? And that's when the righteous rulership is going to be established on earth. That's when the new management is going to come in. All right? When Yahweh Shai returns and establishes his righteousness on the earth. Okay? That's why all these animals are groaning. The scripture says the creation groaneth. All right? Even though the rocks, the dust, the atoms of the earth, the animals, the air, the oxygen, the clouds are all waiting for Yahweh Shai. Okay? Everything is spiritual, man. Everything has a vibration. Everything has a resonance to it. Everything that the Lord creates is mourning, man. Down to every single hair and every single animal's body, man. But the Lord is coming back very soon. So keep holding fast, keep holding steady, keep fighting the great fight, and we're almost out of here. The new management is coming very soon. All right, Shalom.